All right, welcome everybody. I'm going to do a quick intro and give Aaron the full 30 minutes. So this is Aaron Baker, Data Science Manager at CapTech, and he's going to talk about 80% of machine learning projects fail, how to let them.
Hey everybody, great to have you here. It's weird hearing your own voice echo back at you, but I'm going to work with it. I'm really excited to talk. I hope your stomachs are full and you're full of energy, and if you're not, I am sorry, but just peel your eyelids open. Now, I'm not going to tell you about what I do. You can see what I do. I'm kind of a ambitious fool that takes on too much, like a lot of us. But I want to give you a small hint of kind of who I am. So I'm going to show you something very specific about me that gives you a snapshot pictorially about who I am, which is the backside of my business card. Yes, the backside. Are you ready? Some of you are going to hate it. Some of you are going to love it. Some are going to hate love it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Come on, go. Oh, no, that ain't it. That's the back of my business card. This is the wrong side. So that gives you a snapshot. I am sarcastic. I am a little deadbeat. I like having a deadpan humor, right? A little straight on the nose. And you hate it or love it. And if you hate it, I'm sorry. But that's kind of who I am. So I'm kind of a really energetic guy, definitely high on the ADHD scale, but we're going to have fun together. So we're here to talk about how machine learning projects fail and what we can do about that. Preparing for this talk, I realized that in order to talk about how we fix that problem, we really just need to talk about how we do machine learning projects, right? And if you've been a part of a data science project, especially if you're the data scientist, you know this pain. You've probably experienced it, or you've certainly seen it in your organizations where projects have failed. Right? I'll give you 2 cases recently in my company where we had failures. One was with a new client, and we put one of our best data scientists on it because we wanted to secure this client as a long-term relationship. And he was told by our higher-ups, make this work. It's really important. This is a key client we want to develop, so we're counting on you and relying on you to make this work. There was just one small problem. The data sucked. And I know because they called me and some other people, I'm not that special, in to look at it and help them out. And the data, I have never seen worse data in a real project ever. I'm not kidding you. If I put that data in front of my students, I'd be like prosecuted for torture. It was bad. It was terrible. But my colleague worked really hard. I do not joke you. He worked 16-hour days for a month. Not one day, not a week, for a full month or more. He beat his head on weekends, every weekday, took off time. It was terrible. Trying desperately to win a success on this project because the people above him said, this is crucial, this is key. But you can't juice a stone, right? You just can't do it sometimes. And it wasn't his fault, but he felt guilty. Have you felt the guilt of a failed data science project? Yeah, I have felt that guilt, right? That's how I ended up at CapTech. No, just kidding. No, I gotta go somewhere else. No, that's not how I ended up at CapTech. But regardless, like we've all experienced that. And what's going wrong? In the case of this particular scenario, 2 things went wrong. One of them is that there's a mental model mismatch. We treat data science projects like they're data engineering projects. If you have a data engineering project, you can make sure that your data gets there. It might take more time, it might take more effort, but you can do it. You can haul petabytes of data from here to here with enough resources, right? You can do it. It's just a matter of complexity and commitment. But that's not true with data science projects, and yet we're evaluated on our performance on the same basis. And that's just not fair. So here's the signs. We're all going, just kidding. We're going to march around some fictitious company, and we're going to make change today, all right? So that's one problem that we had. The other problem is that we're humans, and we want to succeed. We want to perform. So we do stupid things, like we try different transformations oh, I'll try this one and that one and this one and take these together, and I'll try 65 different models with different tunings. And we have thousands of iterations that, even with the help of modern state machine learning, blow our time budgets. And we try and we try and we try again. And the problem with this is not just the time, it's also the fictitious results that you get, right? Here's an example that I simulated, okay? It's not down to scale. I'm a statistician, and I hate things not on scale, but I tried to get it there, but I kind of had to cut it off. So this is AUC. I simulated data from a model, and I know, therefore, that's the right model, right? I know it's the right one because it's what it came from. And the real, true AUC was 61%. But if you try XGBoost and all its cousins and you throw models at it, you can eke out better test set performance. But it's completely fictitious because I know the truth, right? Now, that's not a huge difference. That's actually 4% AUC, but that's exactly what gets us. We will try to justify the existence and continuance of a process by eking out 4 or 5% AUC, or sometimes even more. Another case that just happened was we had another colleague. He made a great model. It worked in UAT. They approved it. Went to production. What happened? Failed. There we go. It just failed. Production wasn't the same thing as the stage environment. He was handed data by our client. They handed him bad data, or data that didn't match production. But he had no control over that. Right? So what happens is bad planning, bad rollouts, not having a soft start process. It's all in how we're doing our projects. And the question I have is, are we stuck with this? And the answer is yes. Good night. No. Are we stuck? Or, as someone renowned and highly philosophical has said, who I admire to the deepest extent, can we fix this? Yes. Yes, we can. So I do want you to say this. Can we fix this?
Yes, we can.
That was half good. Can we fix it?
Yes, we can.
And we need to say that, because if we don't say that, we'll continue to be stuck. That's half the problem, is that we're happy with the status quo. We're used to them failing and moving on to the next project without considering how we can do this whole thing better from the get-go. We need to think about this differently. All right? The goal of our process here is more successful failures for more successful successes. I think I broke a grammar rule somewhere there, but I don't really care. So here's my thesis as to how we get here. Here's my concern with how we do things. I'm afraid that data science has lost the science bit. We pull in a package from Python, we slap XGBoost on that sucker, and we go, go! Right? Where's the science in that? We teach people how to build it, but not how to think about it. It's a critical skill of critical thinking, right? And we're leaving that too far in our past. We have this goal, it's this great thing, it'll provide great value, so we try it without thinking through the process effectively before we ever start. So here's the deal. I want to put the data science back into data science. Like this kid's putting back the candy. It's not a perfect analogy, I know. But put it back. Put the science back in data science. That's our goal today. So how do we do that? How do we put science back in data science for machine learning? Well, what is science, right? Science, in my mind, from my stats background, is this. Treat every machine learning project like an experiment. An experiment is actually a discovery project. And if you treat it like a discovery project and an experiment where you pre-plan, you decide what you're going to do, and then you do it, and you execute those steps well, then you have a successful what? Discovery, right? And then the onus of failure is off you. You have discovered that your hypothesis does not work, and that is a success. It's how we talk about, set up, and engage in dialogue with the process. We have to bring the scientific critical thinking and project planning back into data science work. So we want to treat things like an experiment with an hypothesis, with an idea that we're trying to actually destroy before we accept. And also, we want to make sure we treat it like a discovery process, which every experiment should be. So before you start anything, here's 8 things that you should make sure you keep in mind, right? The business question. And yes, everyone knows the business question is important, but we don't do enough often to really think it through. The optimism bias says, oh, we're after convergence in sales. But that's not enough. We have to dig deeper. And often we don't. Underlying assumptions are not unearthed. For example, in the last project I told you about that failed, they were trying to detect signals for failures, but they didn't tell us off the cuff is that we had to do it 3 hours before the failure. So that's a big difference. That's only long-term signals that we can find. And that's a big challenge when you're talking about data that's coming in every 6 seconds from sensors. And so that's just not really, honestly, something I would have ever accepted if I was the one signing that contract. But we didn't have that information, right? We need an hypothesis, and it should be scientific. I don't like slapping XGBoost on things. It's great. I mean, I use it, OK? But like, we need an hypothesis of the mechanism of what we're talking about, how this relates to that, something that is testable, if at all possible. We need to have a metric, and the metric should be well considered. Yes, there's precision, and there's recall, and there's accuracy, and mean absolute error. By all means, those are good, but consider your context. I have often found using a custom metric that's a little bit of a twist is useful. For example, MAE is divided by the observed value. But if you know about MAE, that causes some rounding bias about above and below that can be problematic. In one scenario, we had a target-specific value that was the thing we were aiming for. We wanted like the value, let's just say it's 80. Right? So instead of dividing by the observed value, I divided by the single target value so that we had a common denominator that was specifically tied to the thing we were after. Think about it. You will enjoy the benefits of thinking about the measure you use immensely if you do it beforehand and do it well. The threshold for success, conditions for when your thing is going to fail. Is your data sufficient? Not just I have 2 million rows, but do I have enough data of the right subgroups, enough quality that I can get the thing based on the complexity of the situation? If you're talking about rare events, you need millions of rows. If you're talking about something that's got 20% chance of occurrence, you don't. You want to specify before you begin the models that make sense for your scenario and the transformations on your data, right? And maybe it looks something like this. You put it on a form, probably doesn't look like this, but that's the idea, right? You have to pre-specify all that information. And the next part to success is something, again, that is pretty well known, but we don't do it well enough. We don't consider it and take it seriously enough, and that is the project phase plan. So this is a set of phases, and I'm not going to discuss all of them in detail, but a few key ones in particular. All right? Pre-work, that's the business goal, setting up those 8 measures, right? But it's more than that. I have a background from manufacturing, and in that background, we did FMEAs. Now, an FMEA is a failure mode effect analysis. Fancy words for get an Excel spreadsheet and just say, how could it fail? What's the likelihood? Who owns the action? Can we detect it, and how? And you make that before you touch any code, preferably, or maybe some EDA, but then after that. That way, your business partners know what can happen, and you have communicated that to them. They're aware, they're on board with you, and everyone's aware of what could go wrong, at what likelihoods, and what we could do about it. We need to pre-specify this to take the onus off us as data scientists for failure, as opposed to executing according to a pre-agreed plan that's an experimental discovery. Okay? The discovery spike. And again, people do this, right? We say we do it, but I want to urge us with the discovery spike. The discovery spike is your hypothesis on trial, right? You should be doing everything you can to prove it wrong. That's how you treat an hypothesis. You beat it up, you test it, you pull it to pieces, right? That's what you should do if you're being truly experimental about what you're doing in an appropriate way. And after it gets through that, then maybe you'll let up and you'll be more positive towards it when you start building your POC. but you need to put it through its paces. There needs to be an antagonistic process because we are optimism biased as humans. We want it to succeed. So if we put a kill threshold between each of these, for that little blue line is a kill threshold, okay, between each phase, of AUC is 60% before I get out of the spike. If it's like 58%, we go, well, it's 58, it's 2%. We need to be more experimental. We need to have harder kill zones for it. And yes, there needs to be some rationality if it's 59.5, right? Okay, but that should be a harder boundary that releases us from the responsibility of trying 15 more models or 150 more models with 12 specifications afterwards here. Thank you. All right. Because we have the same problem we do in data science in science, which is called the file drawer problem, okay? In science, they don't publish failures. Because who wants to put a failure in your journal? You only have limited space. Those things are thick. Who's going to put every failure that exists? It doesn't make sense. In the age of AI, I think it does make sense. Like, we can ingest that. But historically, it hasn't made sense, right? And what happens is that our field has the same problem, right? We don't register our failures. So if we get through this process and something breaks down wherever it is, we go straight to the end and we do a postmortem. Now, once again, for manufacturing, my experience says there's a few ways of doing that. A 5Y2HOW, 5W2H. We document that, and we do a timeline analysis to see when things broke, because often it's a series of events, like that movie, a series of unfortunate events, right? With, anyways, 10 years ago, whatever it was. So let's talk about how we actually document. So to kind of cover where we've been, tree is an experiment, a discovery process with a hypothesis. Pre-specify, have good hard gates, agreements, failure mode analysis, so we all have the same agreement. So when the data governance fails, you can say, hey, I called that out. Here's the people that own that. We have to wait, or whatever it is, and you are off the hook because it's part of the process everyone's agreed to. And then when it does fail, we open the drawer. We don't close it like we do in science. We need to open it up. A 5Y2HOW is very simple. It failed. Why? Because the data was in a bad shape. Why? Because there's missing data in these key columns. Why? Because this pipeline is what? You just follow that line down the logic. Sometimes there's more than one why. There could be like two sets of whys. And then you ask the question how. Sometimes you leave out the how. You just it's not so useful. But the idea is you document those things. You put them into categories. And then you put it into a dashboard so you can track what happened. And what does that do for us? It empowers us. If you have 5 projects fail in a year because of bad data governance, you can go to your director or your VP and say, hey, guess what? Data governance is a problem. I've been saying that, and here's the evidence. That empowers us to do better next time and to have the evidence to say where the targeted investment should be as a company to make sure we have more successful projects. And the last thing I'll say is that all of this could be better with AI. Now, I'm not just saying that because everyone says it is true, but think about it. We have biases as humans, and of course, agents aren't perfect. We want to be optimists. We don't want to think about the problems. If you took the context of what a good data science project should be from the beginning, you build an agent with the right context that says, make sure we have an FMEA, make sure we have a plan, make sure we have a rigorous testing of like a stats, and it helps your company build out these projects and also keeps track of your failures and successes. It can help build that organizational knowledge base in a way that's better than an email. So we can use agentic AI to build that knowledge base out better, to do a better job of learning from our failures, being rigorous from the start, and killing it early so that we don't get stuck in a stressful land where people feel personally responsible for those failures and waste months of their time following things that should have been killed, well, months ago. Before we end, I want to tell a story. When I was a child, just kidding, 3 years old, in fact. No, no, not that story. I'll save that for later. Ask me later. No, in the oil industry, When you dig a well, there's about a 1 in 5 chance, very roughly speaking, that you are successful, which actually is about equal to the chance you have of being successful in a machine learning project by complete correlation, not, it's but it's effectively the same. Well, it's not connected, right? Not causation. We're not tied to the oil industry. Well, everyone is, but that's a different story. BP in around the 2000s or so said, we're going to make a goal, and the goal is no more dry wells. That was their goal. And the engineers had a proverbial cow. How are we supposed to do that? 1 out of 5 wells are successful on average. You can go through 10 wells and find nothing, and that's normal. And what the problem was is that because it was so normalized to fail, that you would fail and move on, fail and move on, fail and move on. But when they made a commitment to have no more dry wells, every failure was scrutinized, every failure was learned from. They decided to learn what tests should they have done, how should they have dug, what did they miss, what were the signals, so that every time they learned from the failures that they had, and they built institutional knowledge, and they increased their success rate to roughly about 2/3. And that's the problem we have in machine learning. We're used to failure, we're used to being business-driven, and we should be, but there's a constant fight between the science and data science and the business and business. Because business wants to have a product that works. Fair enough, that's how I get paid. But on the other hand, that's not how data science works. And we have to consider both. We certainly can't kick the business value to the curb, but we cannot kick the fact that data science is an experiment and it's a discovery process. And it should be rigorous, predefined, and executed. And as data scientists, we should be judged based on how we execute according to that plan and how well we plan from the beginning, not on whether or not we can actually predict the thing. Because that's not in our purview to control. We cannot juice the stone. So what I want for us is no more dry ML projects. And I don't mean alcohol. Although that would be kind of cool for some people, not me, I don't drink. But regardless, that's what I want. No more dry ML projects. I want us to have the same commitment to learning, to growing, to doing things the right way as a culture of data science, to start the conversation, to build what we're doing. So I want us all to begin the conversation and the change. Celebrate your next project kill. Talk about it like a success, right? Reframe your projects as experiments of discovery. Break it into the right pieces with the right kill switches that are built into the process. And build the institutional memory by sharing it. Build that agent that collects that information and is the process by which you can always go back, see where you've had problems before, and build around that. And even communicate the value opportunities to invest to make your data science projects work more often than they have in the past. For example, someone might be using the same data you used for a project, and you found out that data is buggy. But they're going to find it out again, and they're in a different department. Like, we need to understand these things. We need to identify those things and share those things. And I think an agent is a really good use case here for that, right? It makes it easy for us to pull up and remember. All right, so send this to your boss. Hi, name. I just got back from what I can only describe as the single most important presentation in the history of human civilization. This amazing guy with a full head of hair in half an hour fundamentally rewired how I think about ML projects. I'm not exaggerating about the hair. The talk was about why 80% of machine learning projects fail. You can read the rest. Okay? Take a picture, send it verbatim. I will accept no changes except the name and your name. All right. It must be sent as is. And CC me. My email is somewhere in here. But sincerely, start the conversation, right? Be the person that starts celebrating and helping people redefine the project from the get-go and making a discovery process. And we can start that. We can become change agents for the culture of data science projects and bring the science back in. Bring in a spirit of exploration and discovery. Bring back in the rigor of experimentation into how we do machine learning. And if we do that, then we're going to be doing some awesome things. So this is a little weird, but it's the first weird thing I've asked you to do, so pony up. I'm a little bit funny, but hold up a pinky. Hold up the other pinky. Very good. They're little puppets. Say no more dry machine learning projects. Now, hopefully you'll remember this after today, because who does that, right? Yeah. Yeah. So before we end, and I am effectively done here, I will put up my last slide just so it's there. I do have a feedback survey here for the talk, so please tell me how terrible I did. But I'm going to take a selfie, and I want you to hold up your pinkies. Hold on, that's the wrong side. All right, guys, you ready? Pinky. Both of them. I can only hold up one. Take care. Cheese.
No more dry.
Yeah, no more dry machine learning projects. That's exactly right. Yeah, all right. So as you can tell, I'm passionate about this. It's also cathartic because we've all been there, right? And I kind of do want to like pick up a sign and march somewhere. I don't know where. DC. Let's go to DC, guys. But somewhere we can make a difference. But more honestly, back to your companies and your places, your organizations, to make a change, to think how we process and develop machine learning projects. In the time that we have left, a few minutes, probably have time for maybe 2 questions. Maybe 1, given how much I ramble.
I don't like it, but so based on the chaos report, it says that about 1/3 of projects in general, IT projects, any project, come in on time, on budget, on scope. So it's like you are going into like baseball hitting or something, where 1/3 is awesome.
Yeah.
So now you it doesn't matter what. Now you've got to go to the people who have hired you, and you have to have a pre-mortem. Here's it like they hired you, so you're in a conundrum. They have hired you because they want you to be successful.
Yeah.
But you are up against something where the very nature of it is probably going to fail.
Well, okay, but on time and on success, that's different than failing completely.
Right.
Now, you're not wrong. There will be failures, and I don't know if the dry oil well 2/3 is really the benchmark of success, but it's got to be better than 80% failing. And I think it's because we're not really treating it correctly. And it's also a matter of how it makes you feel as a person. When you treat it as an experiment, you're successful when it doesn't work out, and when you treat it as a business opportunity, which again, I don't want to throw away because there's real value in that can't be thrown away. You also make that data scientist feel personally responsible for that failure, and it hurts, right? It really hurts. So there's 2 sides. There's the personal humanity, whatever, humanness of this, but also there is, like, we should have better success. Now, what that success rate is, I don't know, but it's above 8 to 20%, right?
How do you communicate that to the people that hired you? How do you have that conversation?
You talk about how data science is different. It can fail, and it's a process of discovery and testing ideas and exploring concepts, right? And I'm not saying it's super easy, but I am saying I think it's really important to do, right? And it does require people willing to listen. I'm not saying it's always going to work. In fact, I bet you if you go and talk to your boss, they're not going to really get it the first time. But if you make that change and start talking about successes as kills and experimentation, you can at least start that process as much as possible and build that culture as much as we can. We can't do everything, but certainly got to go and do anything. If we don't have Bob the Builder, yes, we can. If we accept the fact that we can't, well, thank you, everyone. It was a good half hour. We have to move forward. We have to do better. I can't accept the idea that 80% fail without means for improvement.
Can you share a project you killed recently?
I'll share a project I'm about to kill, which is that one where the production didn't work out. I'm probably going to kill that. I'm going to actually go in and help out the data scientists that did that and do some like ground-based analyses. But my findings are probably going to be that it's not going to work out. Just because they're literally asking for us to detect failures on machines that sense data every 6 seconds with a 3-hour time window. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But I'm going to look and just confirm that it doesn't work. But yeah, I won't need to see him of the company because that'd be bad. But yeah. I think maybe we're out of time. I apparently walked 0.6 miles. in 1,714 steps or something like this. So thank you all for my afternoon walk time. And let's go and make better progress with our same machine learning projects.